Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Looks like we've got a few more folks coming in from the waiting room right now. Fantastic. Well, welcome very much to this afternoon's horticulture how-to and floral design. My name is Erin Lurie, and I work with Hillwood's adult public programs. I will be turning you over shortly to the wonderful and talented Ami Wilber, who is our floral design and event decor decorator here at Hillwood. But before I turn us over to Ami, I just wanted to share a couple of quick updates about things at Hillwood. Ami is actually taking a slight breather because she has been busy all day getting ready for Christmas. Next weekend is when our holiday decorations, which are inspired by our newest publication, A Garden for All Seasons, will go on view. We are open Tuesday through Sunday for those of you who are joining us from the DC area, and I invite you to come and enjoy the fall gardens, soon the holiday displays, as well as the permanent displays in the mansion and the special exhibitions. We also have a variety of great public programs going on through the website. Right now, all of our events are virtual only, so you can find out more about those by visiting hillwoodmuseum.org/events. And I will add that email or that URL into the chat in just a few moments. So without further ado, I'm going to turn us over to Ami Wilber.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, we are going to be celebrating the holiday that's coming up. I know for a lot of people, Thanksgiving is a very special time, and I know this season is going to be a little bit different for all of us. So hopefully creating this floral arrangement today will bring a little bit of happiness and cheer for everyone if you don't get to spend it with your family and loved ones this season. But if you do, then maybe it's something hopefully you can share with them. I will say that because Thanksgiving is about 2 weeks away, I'm not 100% sure if everything is going to last for the 2 weeks. So after I make the arrangement today, I'm going to go over some things that you can do to kind of either supplement your arrangement so that you can carry it through to Thanksgiving, or to add to your arrangement and make it a little bit different, but also in the same realm of a Thanksgiving sort of celebration arrangement. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through step by step each sort of process of creating the arrangement. So I'm going to stop or pause sort of after each step is completed. And then that way, if you have questions, you can have, you can raise your hand or however it is that you ask questions, and then Erin will shout them out to me, and then I can answer them. And that way you can do this along with me. But if you don't want to, you can always just watch afterwards and sort of revisit what it is that we did today.
I'm just going to pop in real quick. Thank you for that reminder, Ami. We are going to be using the chat box for most of our questions. You can absolutely raise your hand if you'd like, but that chat seems to be the easiest. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. So when I was thinking about creating an arrangement for Thanksgiving and thinking about sort of the bounty of Thanksgiving and sort of the color scheme of Thanksgiving, I wanted to go with these sort of rusts and oranges and kind of reddish tones. And one of the things that I found first actually was this bowl. And so I found this copper-ish kind of bowl that I thought would be really kind of fun to create the arrangement in. One of the things in terms of thinking about what kind of container you're going to use or select depends on what it is that you're trying to make and also where it's going to be placed. I was thinking that this would be something that you could place in the center of your table, or someplace where you could be seated and still be able to see over the arrangement. So the one thing that I typically say is that you always can kind of take your arrangement about 1.5 times the container. But because today we're going to make something that's going to be an all-sided arrangement and something that you want to be relatively low, so that way when you're sitting down at the table, you'll be able to see across to the person without having flowers sort of block your view. Unless you're trying to not look at that person from across the table, I would recommend keeping it relatively on the low side of things. So the first thing that I do whenever I am about to start to arrange is I'm going to prep my container. So this one I've already prepped. As you can see, there's chicken wire and floral tape on it. But what I always do is I start with the chicken wire, and I want to make sure that I sort of ball this up and that I have kind of an underneath side and a top side. That way, there's going to be 2 points of contact for when I'm sticking the flowers into the container. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to like roughly guesstimate the size of the container and then kind of scrunch it. And then I will tuck it into the bowl. And then I'm going to use floral tape to then tape the chicken wire on top so that it does not spring out, and it makes for a much, sturdy container. So again, just some floral tape. If you don't have floral tape, you can always use any other kind of tape that's going to help support the chicken wire from staying in. As you can see, it's like a nice full area filled with the chicken wire. So I wasn't being stingy with the chicken wire. You really want to use as much as possible. And that will be also easier than when you're putting the stems inside. And the reason we don't, yes.
Sorry, can I interrupt with a question about where you found the container?
This Accent Decor. It's a wholesale container store. It's something that's online. I'm not 100% sure if you can buy from them without having a wholesale account, but it's also, I know that they supply a lot of different stores. So if you even just go onto their website, I think you can just kind of like look around and see what kind of containers they are. And you might be able to go to your local flower shop or to maybe some other store and see if it's something that they can order in for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Jane has also asked about the possibility of reusing that chicken wire.
Yes. So one of the reasons that we stopped using floral foam at Hillwood is so that we stopped creating so much waste. And the one thing that I love about chicken wire is that we reuse this over and over again. And the chicken wire that I actually have is galvanized, so it doesn't rust as quickly, if ever. And so I've been using like the same chicken wire in different configurations for quite a while. The only time that I start to get rid of my chicken wire and throw it into the metal recycle is once it starts to rust. But like I said, the galvanized doesn't really rust that much, if ever, unless, I don't know, like you will see it here and there, but it's very rare. So that's the one thing that I do love about the chicken wire is that you can reuse it over and over again. If you're using chicken wire that's not galvanized, it does tend to rust after several uses. So you will want to replace that out. Good. Okay, so after you have your chicken wire in and it's taped down, the most important thing, we're going to fill it with water. So I can just show you this. And I'm going to fill it almost all the way to the top. So I don't know if you can see or not, but it's almost filled entirely to the top. The other thing that I like to point out is that I have my container on a Lazy Susan. And one of the things that's great about this, especially when you're doing an all-sided arrangement, is that you can just easily sort of spin it around and be able to look at it without having to constantly sort of like, scooch it to the side or whatever and sort of have the potential of spilling water everywhere. When we're talking about the water, just for a second, the one thing that I want to always stress is that once you cut your flowers, then they start to drink up a lot of water again. And it's usually like the first day that you make your arrangement, you'll notice that they're going to drink up a lot of water within the first 24 hours. So always check your water level every day just to make sure that you have enough water and all of your stems are in the water. And then something else that's going to help you to sort of prolong your arrangement a little bit more is actually taking your container and dumping out the water and refilling it with new water so it's nice and fresh. It's a little bit sort of haphazard because you have a full arrangement full of flowers, but it's really not that difficult to just kind of like gently tip it over the sink and then to refill with water. But really check on your water levels every day just to make sure that all of your stems are in the water. So like I said, this is going to be a centerpiece. So I'm going to do this obviously in a different manner than I would if I was doing a one-sided arrangement. So what I typically like to do is start from the middle and work my way out. And I am still going to start with my greens, and I'm going to sort of use that as my sort of points of, you know, where the furthest bloom is going to go, or I know how wide and how tall I want it to be. And I'll use the greens as sort of a guide. The other thing that helps with starting with the greens is that you can then have more stems in your chicken wire, which will help with your flowers when you get those stems in there to be a little bit more secure. So I'm going to start with my greens. And today I have seeded eucalyptus. And really, you can use any kind of greens that you like. I just happen to really love seeded eucalyptus. I think it smells nice and it also holds up relatively well too. Take off the rubber band. So the one thing about, oopsie, the seeded eucalyptus is that you're going to notice it's going to kind of do its own thing. It's going to either bend over in a certain direction or it's not. So you really want to make sure that you're working with the green and not trying to fight against it, because it's always going to naturally go to whichever side it goes to. So instead of trying to like really force it to do something it doesn't want to do, just let it do what it wants to naturally do. Again, with all of my greens and my flowers, I'm always going to cut everything at a nice sharp 45-degree angle. And like I said, I'm going to sort of start with the middle and I'm going to work my way out slightly. And if it's a little bit too long, you can always just kind of like pull off some of the branches or the leaves to get it to the desired length that you want it to be. And so again, I'm not going to make this very tall or very wide. So this right here, if you can see, is going to be sort of my indication as to the part that extends out the most. And again, if I was doing a bigger arrangement, I would probably just like keep this whole thing intact and let that do something. But I'm trying to be a little bit more contained, make it a little smaller. And of course, always take into care how sharp your pruners are, that you start and finish your arrangement with all of your digits. I know that the pruners that we have, we keep nice and sharp. That way it keeps like a nice clean cut for all of our flowers. But again, just something to be aware of, especially if you're talking or, I don't know, you're doing something else. You just want to make sure that you're paying attention to not snip a finger. I've done it before, so I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but we prefer that you don't do that. The other thing that I love about this seeded eucalyptus are these berries that are on here that I think add a lot of texture, and it makes it a little bit more interesting than just the plain. I've actually seen seeded eucalyptus at Whole Foods, and I think also at Trader Joe's. So if you can see that I've got I would say about, I don't know, 40% greened, 50% greened. And then I'm going to stop with the greening part. Okay, so the reason that I'm not going to fully green up everything yet is because I want to make space for my flowers, and I don't want to have to crush any of the greens or that as well. So that's why I don't green it 100%. But I do have enough greens in here right now that it's sort of starting to camouflage the chicken wire. And it's also, you know, creating a nice shape, so I know exactly where it is that I'm going to put my flowers. Does anyone have any questions about this step? We good?
Amy, we've got one quick question, and that is about how you clean the chicken wire in between uses.
Sure. So I just have like a scrubby brush that I use with Dawn. So I've tried a lot of other different soaps, but I think that Dawn works the best. And then after you wash it down, you know, make sure that you thoroughly rinse it off. And then I do like to, you know, make sure to pat it dry or to like sort of uncrinkle it and put it back into its like single layer sheet, and then just let it dry completely before I store it back into my container or wherever I'm going to store my chicken wire.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create, I'm going to start arranging the flowers. And when I do that, I want to usually, I say usually, start with my largest flowers or my largest blooms first. They usually take up the most amount of space, and you don't want to end up crushing some of the more delicate flowers. However, today, some of my flowers that are a little bit bigger are the spider mums, and they're more delicate and sort of frilly. So I'm actually going to put those in later. So I'm going to start with my second largest bloom, which is my mum. And so I'm going to use these, and I have, I recommended about 5 to 7 of these to start for your arrangement. And I'm going to use all of these first, or mostly, to sort of fill in the area. And I like to arrange by all flower types, all, what am I trying to say? All one kind of flower, and then move on to the next one, and then move on to the next one. I might not use 100% of them and wait until after I'm almost finished to see if I need to like fill in anywhere. But I like to kind of do it this way because it makes it a little bit more systematic, and it makes it a little bit more easier to figure out, especially when you're doing an all-sided arrangement, if you have enough material and where it's going to go. Okay, so hopefully I'm not making you seasick with my constant moving the screen down, but I think that it's easier to then see what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so one thing that you want to keep in mind, especially with chrysanthemums, is that you really want to keep a nice clean stem. So you really want to get off any kind of excess greens that you have on the stem. And again, one thing that I know, like I can do this sort of by sight at this point, but if you're uncomfortable with just starting to clip your flowers right away, what you can do is figure out where you want your flower and kind of put it up against where you think it's going to go, and look down to see about how far you need to cut it. That way you don't end up cutting it like super short and then having all of these like little tiny stems that, you know, you're not 100% sure what to do with. So again, what I would do is I would take my flower and I would say, okay, I want it to be about here. And I would then look to see where it comes down on the container, and then I would snip it from there. So that is what I would do in terms of if you're uncomfortable with trying to just like snip immediately.
Amy, that's great. And I know you have so much mastery because you do this time and time again. We got a question from Barbara, which I suspect you have that internalized knowledge now. But Barbara asked how you estimate how many greens or flowers you need to purchase to create an arrangement of a certain size?
So that is something that I don't necessarily always know. The one thing for me that I feel very fortunate about is being at Hillwood. For most of the year, we're getting stuff from our propagation house or from the cutting garden. So I can just go out and pick as much as I want. And then if I don't have enough, I can go back out and then get some more. If I'm doing something where I have to order flowers in, a lot of times the main factor is your budget. So you don't necessarily want to like over order and have like 50 roses left over or something like that. So the one thing that you can do is first figure out like what container you're going to use and sort of figure out the diameter of the container. From there, you can figure out, if you're looking at one of these mums, like how big across is it? And then what is the diameter of the container? And then you can kind of figure out like, okay, well, I know that, they're, what's that, 3 inches across. And I know that the diameter is like 8. I know that I want to always have things sort of on an odd number because when you're designing, the rule of odd numbers is usually a lot easier to design with because you can triangulate off all of your flowers that way. So you can kind of get an estimate that way. But like I said, the other thing that you can do is if you have your container with you, you can just bring it to the store or to wherever it is that you're going to find your flowers. And you can kind of like look at a bunch and be like, okay, I think that this will be, like only 5 of this size mum that I'll need. And I'll only need this many of this, whatever. So maybe it's always better to err on the side of having more greenery because it's also typically a little bit cheaper than to not have enough greenery. But again, after we're done with this, I can also show you these are going to be my little tricks for you in terms like if all of a sudden you're arranging and you do have like a bald spot in your arrangement, there are things from your refrigerator that you could easily like put into your arrangement and then you can kind of make it look fuller that way as well. I hope that helped somewhat.
That's great. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, so as you can see, I've started with 1 and it's nice and low and it's tight to the container. So I'm going to go off of this sort of configuration, but I'm going to put my center one in next. And I never want anything to be straight up and down. I'm always going to put everything in at a slight angle. And I've made this one just a little bit higher than this one.
That was helpful to hear that it's never straight up and down. I didn't know that.
Oh, good. Very good. I mean, you can, it's just aesthetically, I choose to do it everything sort of at a slight angle. And so again, like I said, I think that using odd numbers is easier because you can sort of triangulate your design off of it. And again, because it's an all-sided arrangement, I want to have these flowers in each direction. And then I'm going to hold off. No, I'm going to put this one. I'm going to put the last one in here. I'm going to put this one sort of tucked into this part right here. Also, the other thing by, now I'm going to move this one over slightly. By putting your flowers in at a slight angle, it also helps to catch them on the chicken wire a little bit more securely as well. Okay, so once I have these in here, and I'm just going to use 5 for today, I'm then going to go to the next size flower that I think is going to take up the most amount of real estate, which is going to be our roses.
Amy, I just got a quick question about whether the kale will be used later in the arrangement, or if that's going to be part of the greenery that we should think about now.
It's going to be part of the greenery, but I'm going to wait with the kale to put it in towards the end.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. So next I'm going to go with my roses. And again, these are going to be taking up the next sort of amount of real estate. Again, with your roses, you want to make sure you cut that on a nice sharp angle. And I'm going to put the first one in over here. And again, this is what makes it nice having it on a Lazy Susan, is that it makes it relatively easy to put in your flowers. And so what I'm doing with the roses is I'm sort of putting them in between the mums. And again, because I am using the same amount of roses and the odd number, it's easy to kind of place them and see where they're going to go. And again, I'm just going to use 5 of these. There we go. Okay, so now, once I have all of my roses in place and my mums in place, the next thing I'm going to do is go in with my kale. So one of the things that I love to do whenever I am making an arrangement that is going to be around food or is going to be on a table is to incorporate any kind of like food element or some kind of herbs into the arrangement as well. I just think it adds a little bit of context to maybe whatever it is that you're eating so that it all blends together. And it's also just kind of a fun, sort of different, like a surprise for your arrangement. I love this kale. It's, I think, sometimes called dinosaur kale, or what is it? Something, there's a fancy name to it that I can't remember now. But I think that this one is fun, but I've also in the last arrangement that I did for the VC, I used just the regular curly kale, and that works nicely too. So again, any sort of like hardy green is going to stand up to being in a floral arrangement for a bit of time. I'm going to, though, sort of strip down the leafy part so that I just have the stem that's going to go into the arrangement. And then I'm going to tuck this down kind of towards the bottom, but also so that you can really see it. And I'm just going to do a couple of these first. And I'm going to wait until a little bit later as well to then really fill it in with some more of the kale.
And Amy, I think the other name for dinosaur kale is lacinito kale, but I love dinosaur kale and will only call it that from now on. It's much more fun.
Am I making that up, Jess? Yeah. Okay. It is called dinosaur kale. Okay. All right. So again, I'm just going to use 3 of my leaves, and I'm putting these more a little bit towards the base. And I just sort of triangulated them. Okay. So now I'm going to go in with my spider mums. So these are going to look different than the spider mums that were in your containers if you picked up arrangements, because these are the ones that we grew here at Hillwood and they're very special. So I wanted to use them and kind of showcase them. if you weren't in the mum floral workshop that we did last, I don't know, like a month ago, and I say we, it's not me, but Hillwood, the horticulture department, propagates over, I think we did over 770 stems of these specialty mums that were for me to use in arrangements. So this is actually the last week of our mums. So I just wanted to use a couple of these. But as you can see, it's very kind of like delicate and kind of frilly. So that's why, even though they're bigger in terms of size than these other mums, I want to make sure that I didn't put these in first so that I didn't crush all of the fun little petals on here. And I'm going to have these sort of sit up and out slightly from the other flowers.
Amy, I just got a question about whether the kale leaves should go into water. And if you've got any tips on stem length. I know you mentioned at the very beginning that you like that 1.5 times the size of the container, but for a centerpiece, you like to keep them a little tighter.
Yes. So in terms of, were you asking like the length of the kale?
I think for everything, Aria mentioned that her arrangement is a little long right now.
Okay, yeah. So when I was talking about the sort of scale in terms of the bowl, I wanted to kind of keep everything a little bit shorter. What I'll do, or what you can do, is do what I like to call the conversation check, so that when you're sort of halfway through, you want to put it on your table and sit down with a chair and see if you can actually see over the arrangement. If it's a little bit of a struggle, then I wouldn't jeopardize what it is that you're doing. But if you can't see anything at all, you either might want to like rethink and kind of take some of the taller ones from the top and just cut them down a little bit. Or, if it's a beautiful arrangement, then you're just going to have to tell your guests that it's a beautiful arrangement and that you can peer off to the side and see them. But otherwise, if I were to sit down and if I were to see that this was just a little bit tall, I would go into the middle ones and I would just snip those a little bit and then kind of bring everything down slightly.
Would it help if I spotlighted Aria so that we could take a look at that? And would you be okay with that, Aria? All right, I'm gonna put her up on video so that Amy can see what she is working on. There we go.
Oh, it's beautiful. So what I would do is I would just maybe take the roses from the top. Yeah, and I would just start to like cut those down slightly. And also with your eucalyptus, you might want to take that and kind of like scrunch it in a little bit more too. So you might want to, you could actually like break apart the eucalyptus in terms of, you don't have to use like one whole stem. You can kind of cut from the eucalyptus stem. That way you can make them shorter. So, like instead of using this entire branch, what you could do is then go in and like cut from the branch, and you can use make this into then shorter stems. And I think that will help to kind of bring your arrangement down slightly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm going to continue using my spider mums, and I'm going to put those in. Oops. Okay. And these are really fun. They kind of look like little fireworks that are coming out of the top of your arrangement. So I can already tell that these are going to be a little bit too long and they're going to be a little bit too big. So I'm going to take them down slightly. And then they're think I'm just going to use 4, which I know I typically said I always go in odd numbers, but you'll understand why in just a second. So I'm going to put this one down on the side here. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is add in my stock. And the stock is kind of delicate, and I might pull off a couple of the last blooms on here. I'm going to remove the leaves. And I'm going to put this in close to where I have my kale. And I'm actually just going to use 3 stems. So I'm going to put the stalk where I have my kale leaves. And so the last one is over here. Again, I'm removing all of the leaves. I'm taking off some of the bottom ones just so that they don't get crushed. Okay, so then I feel like I am done with the flowers. So now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to look at the bottom and really see if I have any bald spots like I do right in here. So I'm going to go in with a little bit more of the eucalyptus. Oh no, something growing on this one. Then I'm going to go along and fill in any spots that need to be filled in with my eucalyptus. All right. So I feel good about this. There's a couple of more spots that are a little bit bald. So I'm going to now go in with my kale. And as you can see, this is a very long piece of kale. So I'm going to take off a lot of it. I have now a much shorter piece of kale. There's a couple of spots where it looks like it needs a little trimming. Here. And then there was one other spot that was right over here. And again, I'm going to go in, pull down most of that. Go in. Okay, so now I feel like I'm done. I'm just going to inspect it, have a little look-see, and yeah, it's good. Okay, so now if anyone has questions about what just happened, now is the time to ask. And then I'm going to move on to my what happens when your flowers start to fade. What can you do?
I see lots of folks who are still hard at work arranging.
All right.
No questions right at the moment.
I'm going to try and see if I can put this up so you can have better little look-see. Yeah.
Amy, that's just gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. So while people are still working, while I'm dumping water everywhere, I was just going to talk a little bit about what you can do when things start to die out, or you need to replace things, or if you need to kind of redo the whole thing over. So like I said at the beginning, one of my favorite things, especially if this is going to be for Thanksgiving, or whatever holiday it is that you're going to celebrate in the next 2 weeks, it's always fun if you're going to be having an arrangement that's going to be on the table with food, to also incorporate, like I said, herbs and food. So I would say that your stock, which is this right here, is most likely going to fade first. So I thought something that might be fun, because again, the stalk is sort of like an elongated flower, something that you could then replace into it would be rosemary. So that, again, you have this nice fresh herb and you have a nice fragrance. And again, it's also sort of mimicking, if you notice, the shape of the stalk. So again, this is something that you can obviously find in the grocery store, relatively easy to find rosemary. So this would be a great substitution to then replace your stalk as that starts to fade out a little bit. And again, it's also something that if you want to just add this in right now, you can do that as well. If you wanted to go out to the store tomorrow and get some rosemary, it's a lovely thing to add into there. Something else that I thought would be fun in terms of, either for the roses, once they start to fade out, is using pomegranates. And I have some pomegranates here. The pomegranates that I have are on their branch still. But typically when you go into your grocery store, you're not going to have the branch part on your pomegranate. It's just going to be the pomegranate like this. So again, the pomegranate, because it's sort of this reddish color, it's sort of similar in shape to your rose, would also be like, I think, a fantastic substitution to then use for when your roses fade out. One thing that you can do with the pomegranate is, if you find these are just like garden sticks that you use to like prop up any kind of plant. You can find these anywhere. You can use a chopstick, any sort of thing with a little bit of a point at the end that you could then insert into maybe your pomegranate. You just don't want it to come through to the other side. So then you have your little pomegranate on a stick. And then that's something that you could then, let's just say that this rose here faded out. You could just pull her out. That's the other thing that's great about the chicken wire, is that it doesn't really ruin the integrity of your structure. And then you could put your pomegranate there in place. Again, you'd want to sort of measure the length of your rose to your pomegranate. So you'd need to shorten this just a little bit. And I used wire snips to cut that, not my floral shears. And then you could just then tuck the pomegranate in, and then you have a nice replacement for your rose. Something else that I learned from this wonderful woman who's out of New York was using fruit also in arrangements. And one of the things that I absolutely love, and it's taken from the old Dutch master paintings, is using grapes. And I think that having grapes hanging down off of the sort of edge of your container is a really fun sort of thing to do. And especially because you're using a compote bowl, so your container is up a little bit higher than it is just sitting on the table. You can have these grapes then sort of hang over or cascade over the edge. I'm actually going to use this other one, which is a little bit longer. So I'm going to take off couple of the grapes here. And then what I'm going to do is find a spot that looks like it has a little bit of a bald spot. And I'm going to then tuck in my grapes into my container, and they're going to hang, I don't know if you can see this or not, but they're going to hang down slightly from the bowl. So let me see if I can, I don't know if you can kind of see this or not, but they're tucked in, and now they're kind of like hanging down away from the bowl. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing that you could also use as a replacement. And then the last thing, you know, because your mums are this sort of orangey color, that you could use either small little mandarin oranges. I don't think I would use like anything too much bigger. It might be a little bit much, but you could. And again, you're going to do the same thing. I always love the little nubby part of the clementine or the mandarin orange. You're just going to stick your onto a little thing. Again, I'm going to use my wire snips and not floral shears. And then you could put that in replace of one of your mums. So I'm going to take out this mum, maybe. Well, for the sake of this, I'm just going to cut this one out here, right there. Okay, so then where my mum was, which was right here, I'm going to take 3 of these clementines or mandarin oranges. I don't know which they are. And I'm going to put those where the mum was. Like that. So now I've got some fruit elements to my arrangement as replacement for flowers. The other thing you can use an apple instead of the little clementines. So really anything that you kind of strikes your fancy or that you have in your house that is hanging around.
Amy, I love that. That's so clever.
So I think that concludes the design portion. So are there any last questions? Do people want to show off what they've done?
Yeah, if folks can give a little wave, I would be delighted to spotlight you and show off your beautiful arrangements. It looks like Kevonne is ready.
Oh, yes.
Kevonne,
Yep, that's beautiful.
Kevonne, it looks like you are still muted, and I am.
Thank you. This is my first flower decorating class, so I tried my best.
Oh, well, that is fantastic. That looks absolutely fantastic then. No, I like how you've arranged the kale. It's a nice composition.
I thought they looked like feathers.
Yeah, they do. I love it.
Thank you.
All right, I see Jeri waving her hand, and it looks like we need to tilt. Perfect. Standing up is even better. That way we can see you.
Wait, I'm trying to get, let me hold this away from. Can you see that now?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, sorry for the, trying to move the thing around. It seems like it's so big.
Oh, no, that looks great. Excellent. Yeah, and with the leftover flowers, keep them in a cool place, and you can always then add in if need be.
Yeah. I found that putting them in the refrigerator keeps flowers, especially this summer. I did that with hydrangeas. They stayed for weeks.
Yeah, yep.
All right. Jade, I see you're up close by the camera. Are you ready to show off your good work?
So I will admit I started over mid-class and I yanked everything out frantically and started over because I realized I had things too long. So now this is where I landed.
Excellent.
And it seems like, I don't know if you can tell, it's still a little long, but I trimmed them down considerably from where they were before. So I'm just trying to still get a sense of when I snip the length that I need to have them. So I'm going to practice that again with another arrangement.
So are you planning on putting them on the like your table, like with food and company, or are you?
No, I think I just want them to stay in the living room, like on the little stand and like next to flower, like for right now. But when I make one for the holidays, I'll make that a centerpiece for the table.
Yeah. So at that point, definitely go a little bit shorter. But I think like the ones that you just did, I think are beautiful, and I love that they're airy and they're asymmetrical. So I wouldn't touch the ones that you've done already. But for one that you want to do, you know, come for the holiday for the table, just sort of think about like actually put the container down on the center of the table and sit down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll get a better understanding of like, okay, so I know if I'm sitting here, I can't make it any more higher than, you know, this. And I think that'll give you just a better sense. And then take your first flower even and use that as like your tallest flower that you're going to have in there as your guide. So then everything else is then going to sit below that. And that will also help you as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, really you're welcome.
Mary Slimp, it looks like you have everything posed beautifully.
Oh, thanks. I'm trying to get the camera so you can see it, but I've got a window right behind me, so the light's not really capturing
it. Looks like an
but,
Instagram photo with it all like staged with like the,
yeah,
the curtain and the chair.
Fancy.
It looks fantastic.
Thank you. And the color goes really well with my my curtains behind there. So
it really does. Yeah,
I'll try to put a picture online.
Yeah, it definitely looks like you've made it specifically for that spot. It looks wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks so much. This was great.
You're welcome. Great job.
Thank you.
Kathy, it looks like you are ready for a close-up. Sorry, Kathy, you were all ready to go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Here it is. It's a little more free form.
Oh, I love it though.
But I learned a lot for the next time.
Okay.
But I love the colors, and yeah, it was really fun.
So I think
I'm not going to have it on a table because we probably will not be sharing our table this year, but
right.
if we do, the two of us, I'll just move it to the other side.
Well, then make it as big as you actually want, you know? So the one thing I will say, just across the board, not necessarily pointing out you, is that with the greenery, what I typically do is I never use just like one whole branch of something. I'll break it down a little bit, and that will also give you a little bit better of a gauge of starting it to be a little bit smaller. But again, if you're trying to do something that's not necessarily going to be like in the middle of a table, then you don't need to worry about that. But if you do want to do something that you want to kind of see over, you want to break down the eucalyptus a little bit more. But I think it's fantastic, and I would make it even bigger since you're not going to worry about it.
Oh, Texas style, right? Make
exactly. Thank you. It looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
All right, Lynn, I should have just prompted you to unmute.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Perfect.
Let's see, I'm not getting speaker view though. So I had to improvise again as usual. So I have a few forever blooms in here, but the remainder I was able to go out into my garden and my fields and find some interesting dried flowers. I have, let's see, I have some grasses. Oh, okay. I have grasses and I have milkweed pods. I don't know, can you see this, or I'm not seeing it in gallery view?
No, I don't see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have it pinned, so it should be front and center, but let me. Is
There
that better?
There we go.
No,
So sorry about that.
Like, I think that's too bright. It's kind of hard to see, but I purposely made it low and long.
Oh, yeah.
I measured how tall it should be for the table. And my forever blooms are these bright orange things and maple leaves. And then I actually found forever seeded eucalyptus. But
Yeah.
I went out to my fields and I found some goldenrod and some sumac drupes.
Nice.
Some sedum that it's already a little too dark, and the milkweed pods, grasses. Oh, I also have some sage from my garden in there too.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And I have some astilbe. It's just like really New England autumn colors.
It is. Yeah. No, it looks beautiful.
But I think, one thing I found right outside my window is eucalyptus with berries, not eucalyptus, I'm sorry, euonymus with berries on it. And I've never seen the berries before.
Yeah.
These are the berries on the.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I've never seen that. So I brought them in too, but.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I have some iris seed pods and things like that.
I love it. I love that you're able to create something using, permanent botanicals, but also things from your yard and things that are dried. It's a great combination. It really works nicely.
I'm really happy with it. Thank you.
Good. Excellent. Great job.
Gail, I am going to see if we can squeeze you in. I know you said you've got to run.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So here it is.
I love it, Gail. It looks fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like how you have the eucalyptus sort of like draping over the edge too. I think that works really nicely.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, I used almost all the flowers. I just kept putting them in.
Excellent. That's what you should do. It's the Hillwood way.
And I've got to go. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Fabulous.
Ooh,
Ginny, that looks beautiful.
Yeah, I'm pleased. Let me see if I can figure out how to show you. Well, I'll hold it up a little. I don't know why this.
No, that looks great.
I'm usually better with the camera, but anyway.
Well, the sunlight is beautiful the way it's coming in right now and like hitting the arrangement. So yeah.
But yeah, I was a little worried because I had a tragedy in my car on the way home and lost 3 blooms, but I had plenty of flowers, so it was fine.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it happens. Anyway, but I really like the idea of putting fruit in. I hadn't thought of that, but that would be a good suggestion, and it would look lovely with the colors here.
Yeah, which is why I was thinking like just in terms of, like what could replace what. If you just think of like different, fruits or vegetables that are the colors that are in your arrangement, then it'll be a nice way to just sort of substitute things out. Yeah.
But I'm very pleased with how it turned out.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
Amy, we got a question a few minutes ago about if you have any suggestions for something that could replace the spider mum.
In terms of another flower or?
Another flower or a fruit, just if that is one of the ones that starts to fade?
Sure.
You can think about it for a little bit while Michelle shows off her gorgeous arrangement.
Yes.
So.
Oh, it's beautiful.
A little bit better. I think that this side that you can see is a little bit better, but it's only 3 of us, so we don't need 4 sides.
Well, I think it looks beautiful. Definitely. Excellent. Yeah. And did you use almost all of the flowers, I take it?
I did. I
Or-
used flowers. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. I love it.
All right, I just saw Lynn pop on a second ago, so I think that means you are ready to share.
I'm ready to share. Whoops. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I used all of the flowers because I thought they were so gorgeous this time that I could not waste any of them. And I fit them all in. And
Wonderful. Yeah, no, that looks absolutely beautiful.
yeah, and I loved this class. It was really fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
good idea too. I can't wait till my roses die.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the pomegranates are a lot of fun. We might be seeing those make an appearance again for the holiday centerpiece as well.
Great idea.
Fabulous. And as Amy mentioned, we do have some centerpiece workshops coming up in December. We're actually going to be running 2, one on Wednesday evening and one on Friday in our usual 1:30 afternoon spot. And those are in December on the 9th and the 11th. Aria, can you tell us all about your beautiful arrangement?
Oh, I love that you already added some fruit into it. The grapes and the oranges look fantastic.
This is my arrangement with my mom, and we added some plastic and wood fruits to our
Nice.
And the grapes are actually real. I just got them from our kitchen.
Oh, I love that you already are incorporating the grapes and the fruit and everything, and it looks absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh,
see. I know I have shared many of you. Oh, Nancy, I have not showed you off yet. I just prompted you to unmute. So when you do that, we'll be able to hear you. There we go. Oh. It looks like you went muted again.
If my mom doesn't know how to unmute.
Oh, it's muted.
There you go, Mom. You got it.
What do you think, Amy?
I love it.
This was great. We had a lot of fun together.
We did. Yeah, those mums are fantastic. Beautiful.
Are those snapdragons too?
Yeah.
Yes, we couldn't get the stock.
That's a perfect substitution for the stock is snapdragons. Because it again has like the same kind of shape. It has the same small flowers that will open up. And yeah, I love that you put it into a little bowl too. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, really like it. It's great. Love the colors.
Excellent.
Thank you for your help.
Of course.
All right, for folks, I know I have showed off many of you, but I am also sure that I have missed some as folks turn on and off their cameras, the boxes rearrange on my screen. So thank you.
I actually didn't use the Hillwood flowers this time. I got some flowers from Yes Market.
Excellent.
I like the fall. I like the contrast with the yellows, but it's very different what other people are doing. And
I think that looks fantastic.
Some roses, some carnations, some proteus. Actually, the proteus is not fresh, but anyway, you don't know that.
Yeah. And I like the wheat that you put in there too. That adds like a nice sort of like touch of whimsy into it.
Yeah, I thought that had a harvesty feel. You know, the little.
Definitely.
And I put a little around it, and I put a little pumpkin at the base here. Oops, sorry, a little pumpkin at the base.
Oh, I love it. Yep. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I really learned a lot about like not putting things straight in, but trying to angle a little bit more and working with the greens first. So I didn't have a lot of greens, but I learned a lot, even though I didn't.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wonderful job.
Is there anybody else who I have missed so far?
This is Sue Butterfield.
Thank you, Sue. You've been waiting so patiently down there.
No worries at all. As I sit here and wait, watch everybody else, and also find all the things that I kind of didn't do very well. Anyway, I failed the keep it small and compact part of the lecture, but I'm going to put it on an island in a kitchen, and it have fairly high ceilings. So I actually, but I would cut my stem smaller the next time. I got too far in, and there's one I can't get out, so I just left them.
It's always a challenge for me to make things that are small, because everything that we're making here is always supposed to be large. So
Right.
I totally understand. And like a lot of times, like I said, if it ends up being a little too tall, I'm like, well, you just have to look at this, and maybe you move it off to the side of the table, or you move it to a different location. So I think it's great, and I definitely wouldn't try and make it any smaller than it is, because I think she's lovely as a large and tall kind of arrangement. So I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Katie, can you show us your arrangement there?
Yes, I hope so. On my lazy Susan.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get the flowers this time. So I just kind of, did what I could and got stuff out of my yard and whatnot. So anyway.
No, I think that that's fantastic. I think that, it's like within the same color palette, and I like how you were able to also, incorporate those greens. So very nice.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. I enjoyed it, but I've already ordered for next month, so I'm all set.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that worked out for you next time around.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited about the holiday Christmas.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that it'll be, again, we're gonna aim for doing a centerpiece, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if it's low or not.
Fantastic. All right, Karen just turned on her camera to show off.
Oh, it's a little dark.
It looks like that room has extraordinary light, which is not necessarily the best for this particular purpose. Oh, and Karen, it looks like you are still muted. There we go.
Can you see now?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
that's
much
gorgeous.
better.
Yeah.
So the spider mums are hard to find unless I get them from you guys. So we use the forever blooms for the spider mums. But
Yeah.
everything else was, and then some thistle in there instead of the eucalyptus. I tried ordering forever eucalyptus from Michael's, and they sent me one with a bunch of sparkles, which I don't like. And I for all of this, it's my birthday today, so I was this was my
happy birthday.
I really enjoy the workshops. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Are you, I'm sorry, you're in DC or the DC area?
Yeah.
Because I know that American Plant, it's a little bit expensive, but they have beautiful permanent botanical eucalyptus.
Ah, maybe for the future ones for Thanksgiving, because I'm gonna
Yeah.
redo. This is from Whole Foods. They've been the best so far in terms of trying to find comparable stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, Whole Foods is great, honestly, and the flowers are typically super fresh too. So
yeah, so
yeah,
it's been really
wonderful
fun.
job. Excellent.
And Karen, we've got a couple of nice happy birthday wishes popping up in the chat, which I will second. So we're so glad you spent your birthday with us today.
It was my plan, so thanks.
All right. I think that might be everyone. Is that true? If I missed you, please give a wave. Okay, I see no waves, so I'm gonna, as I mentioned, we've got a couple of great workshops coming up in December, and then of course we'll be back with more floral workshops in 2021. Amy is also going to be turning back to hard work with the holiday decorations. And on Tuesday, December 8th, she is leading a virtual tour of the holiday decor. So you can either come and see her beautiful work in person or join us on Tuesday the 8th for a week of fabulous holiday floral fun.
It's gonna be good.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us today. It's been a wonderful way to kick off our weekend as usual. And I love seeing familiar faces coming month after month. And I look forward to seeing you all in December. I will send out an email with a couple more, a little bit more information, as well as resending the document that Amy sent in advance. So thank you, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Everyone stay safe.
You too.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.